I did a top 5 comics no one is reading list a few months ago, almost a year ago, but now I want to do a top 5 graphic novels or comics, whatever you want to call them, because these are all collected in graphic novels now, that you probably never read. Some of these are slightly more known than others, but when I look at conversations or people talking about what's the comics you must read, I really never see these brought up, and it just drives me crazy. So today, I'm making it my mission to get the word out that these graphic novels need to be read right now. Starting with number 5 is going to be Local. Funny enough, I actually read this one by mistake. I picked it up at the library really without knowing what it's about or what it is, and it's a pretty big size book. It's over 300 pages. So once I started though, I really had a hard time putting it down. I read this in 2 nights, the first 6 issues and then the last 6 issues, and it's really a great story. The main character is a drifter who goes through various different stages in her life in different areas of the world, just trying to survive this, rough and tough type of world by yourself. There's different points in her life that do eventually lead to a very satisfying ending, and it's almost bittersweet in a way, but really well done. It's just the type of comic that just gives you the real human emotion that sometimes you need in comics and forget that they can do because of all the superhero fluff and stuff. This really hits everything that you want in a comic in terms of emotional and also just really well done storytelling for character development. Coming out number 4 is Rachel Rising, and talk about one that took me way too long to finally read. This series screams basically like a darker Buffy, but in all the good ways. Where Buffy still remained campy throughout a series, this really isn't never campy. You'll get a few chuckles here, you'll get really well-developed characters, you'll get an extremely well-done world-building experience, and a fascinating plot that really drives this forward. It's about a girl who wakes up from the grave and tries to figure out why she died, and it gets so crazy with all these religious metaphors and creatures and demons and witches. It's just really well done. It really has almost no filler, which is the biggest surprise. Like, nothing feels like it shouldn't be in here. It's 42 issues. You can get the omnibus for about $50, and let me tell you, this is worth every single penny. Alright, so we're going to go with number 3, and it's Postal. I find it really odd that people really haven't checked the series out. The premise alone is super interesting. Basically, it's like this wicked town that's filled with like downright sick and twisted people, maybe murderers, maybe killers, maybe rapists, whatever they want to be. I think murderers and killers are the same, James. Come on. Anyway, you have a main lead who's on the spectrum, and he is not like too there some of the times, but what he does, because he breaks things down to a T, is that he's able to do detective work like no other. And he's not a detective, but he does figure out crimes, and he can basically outsmart a lot of people because he sees it very black and white and nothing in between. He has very little emotion. It's really this like dark, twisted, very Hitchcock type world, and it only gets better as it goes on. Each volume of this is just getting better, and it was supposed to be over, but I think they're continuing it, so maybe you should check it out now because the first 5 volumes are done and each one is worth reading right away. Coming in at number 2 is Criminal. Now this is probably, I would say, the most popular one on this list. So you probably heard of Criminal. But I don't want you to confuse yourself here. This series, when it's listed, is very highly regarded, and it's like a critically loved series. People really do enjoy this. Critics love it. However, I only know like one person of all my comic fans who's actually read this. Criminal is just a bunch of one-shot comics, or one-shot stories. Each volume has its own story that gives you the world of criminal activity. And that sounds like a little weird, but when you really get to it, it's just really an awesome way of telling different tales that sometimes cross over, but they always give you like an interesting end-up story, like from robbery to prostitution to like murder and so on. Really, Criminal does it the best because you get into this world that is dark, gritty, just really well done. It's almost like reading a David Fincher movie every time, and each story is its own story, so even if you dislike one, you got another one that's probably will love. So this series really should be checked out while it's still in print. It's 6 volumes, and each one has its own ups and downs, but overall this series, even at its worst, is good, and at its best, extraordinary. And coming in at number 1 is Day Tripper. This is, and I'm not shitting you, I've read over 3,000 graphic novels. This is probably my top 10 of all time comics, one of them. It hits you in such ways that you are just not expecting it. It really does focus on giving you an overlook of your life. So this is firing on all cylinders. It just kind of gives you the main lead, and he's dying in each chapter. Except it's not to show you like it's twisted or horror. It's really to show you more about the reflection of life and how we use it and how we do things in life, and how just a simple thing can end your life. And it kind of makes you realize that this life is pretty short, and maybe you got to do more with it. Maybe you got to try to be braver. But this series sometimes doesn't give you that option. It just says that you're going to die and there was nothing you could do about it, and how it affects other people. And maybe it makes you think when you lost something, maybe you could do better or try to improve your own life from seeing the loss of a young life or somebody you love. So I mean, I'm just talking about this series makes me want to go read it again. It is just something so well done. It makes me tear up, while other issues made me, like, my stomach turn from such horrible acts, while others made me laugh hysterical. It's truly a remarkable book. I mean, this is literally, if you don't read comics, this should be read anyway. This is one of the best novels I've read. I'm just going to say a novel because I love it that much. But yeah, Day Tripper, definitely #1. Please go read this. It's like 15 bucks on Amazon. Go pick it up. But yeah, that is my list for like top 5 comics that you probably didn't read yet. You have to read these comics. I think these comics really go above what you expect in the comic world. Now, not to say these are flawless, of course not, but these are comics that really do try to give you, push the boundaries of what comics want to show you, and people just don't want to read them or don't think highly of them. And I think that if you read a couple of these, you will surely change your mind. So please list yours below of comics that you really love that no one has read. That way maybe I can check out some that I haven't read, whether it's from the big 2, whether it's from Image, Boom, I don't care, IDW. List them below. I want to check those out too. And everybody else, have a good day.